Well, joining us now in the studio for more on the nationwide police deployment is a former Assistant Inspector General of Police, AIG Wilson Inalegwu. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight tonight.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for me to be here.
Well, this order from the IG Usman Mabarakali came as, well, with mixed feelings, reactions, from Nigerians. People wondering, does the Nigeria police have the capacity to man all schools or public institutions, universities and what have you, hospitals, and so on? I mean, 27,000 schools, secondary schools, primary schools, 116,000 and more, universities, over 179,000. How is it possible, really? What do you need to put in place for this order to make sense?
Yeah, I think what the IG is attempting to do, first of all, is to rejig, the security arrangement by the NPF. And so when you do that, he mentioned several steps. You are going to have motorized patrols. You are going to have officers on foot patrols. You are going to have raids. You are going to have, and all this will be intelligence-led. Right. You see, when you have a situation where there is a kind of general fear, the first thing you do is you prevent the fear of crime, the fear of violence. And in doing that, you have visible policing. So at strategic locations, you are going to have those officers deployed professionally. You aren't going to have them at every location because they'll be thin. Right. Imagine that you have a school with a population of about 1,000 and you have 5 officers. They can't possibly protect that school. So you have to strategize. You look at which is the best place you can do. And so the idea is talking about proactivity. Right. And when you have that proactivity, you are going to begin to disrupt every attempt by the criminals, by the criminal elements, to make life uncomfortable or to cause mayhem. So I look at the deployment in various, let's look at it this way. IGs prevent the fear of crime, go after the criminals, and then he's talking about the officers being professional, being civil. So in doing that, what is the IG talking about? That if you have an indisciplined police force, you aren't going to have a cooperative public. Right. You can't get that collaboration. And from last week and even before, you have a lot of officers, errant officers, who conduct themselves unprofessionally, being publicly shamed and dismissed. So that's a combination, that professionalism, you talk of discipline, and then that means when officers are given this, but in all of this, what resources has the IG?
That's the question.
Yeah, and then you begin, but you have to, I'm coming to that. I'm trying to get, now, what resources? How many police stations? You have a police station with a strength of about 200 or 300, the division. How many vehicles do they have? So, what is the IG going to do? It's got to optimize the resources cut, the material and the human resources. And you make him, you make the force large, because technology and man will create that largeness. But with a cooperative public, with a collaborative public, you are going to achieve incredible results. And I'm happy that the IG tried to combine this important step with discipline, with professionalism, because you have a Hilton or wherever you are, you aren't going to have police at every gate, but you have your eyes, you have the CCTV, you have vehicles, motorized patrols, but the human elements, that symbiotic relationship, you've got to do that. And in storming you have to, where they seem to have comparative advantage, their presence in the forest or in the bushes. The IG talked about bushes, and I think he's talking about forest. That forest is got to be made uncomfortable for them.
Okay. And I'm glad to talk about repeatedly the relationship between the civilian and the police, because that has remained hostile for a long time, largely. And there are several reasons attributed to that. But when the IG says this should be intelligence-driven, he talked about particularly traditional and local intelligence to locate the criminal hideouts to flush them out. How easy will this be? Is this working with local vigilantes that are not recognized, that are, you know, that have clashed with the police in history? Are we talking about the police working with the likes of Amotekun, the state vigilantes? How easy will it be to get this traditional and local intelligence?
One of the strengths of the NPF is its reach. You've got to almost every district. You have the police formation. Now, if you take it from that district, ward or district level, you have the district head or the village head or any other person of importance. And all this, when you have a police force, and I think the Nigeria Police Force does that, if you have all this, you don't really need, well, you need this Amotekun, Ebebeagu, and volunteer force and the rest of them. They have their role. What role do they have? The information they can provide. Policing, law enforcement is not about carrying rifles and guns and all that. Because if these gangs are able to be disrupted, because there's just nothing you can do. If you have 30 officers guiding the location, and you have about 200 come to invade that place. So what do? You've got, you know, to disrupt the activity that they never get to gang. So there must be conscious effort and robust effort to make it impossible for the gangs to operate as a group. Once they get organized, it becomes difficult. So when you have bodies like the Amotekun, I expect that they should have a kind of relationship. And what kind of relationship do they have? That, look, these guys are a common enemy. And we are able to attack them when we close ranks. But it is because, like I said, you only need few people once they know that a plan like this is occurring. Right. So let the Amotekun and all these bodies work with the NPF. And that is why, in the wisdom of government, I think in April 2020, there was an approval by the president to get special constabulary. And what are they supposed to do? Because that's provided for under the Police Act, the amended, even the Police Act, what they used to call Friday Police. Now, these guys are going to be employed within communities. The federal government was meant to pay for a particular number, and the state governments. And these guys will be given police uniform. But the color will be slightly different. And the numerals, the number will be like 3 digits, unlike the NPF regular officers that are 6. Now, when you have this, you are creating presence in the communities, and this can bring information, because every police officer is supposed to provide information when you are driving, because that's the essence of policing, that you make contact with the public, you get to hear from them. Whether you are in the district, you have relationship, because that's the first thing you are taught. You are taught power of observation, you are taught connecting with your communities. The first thing they taught us in the training school, when we just got there, they put few things on the table, and they take them away and ask you, are you able to recollect any? So try to train. So the thing is, the challenge appears gigantic, but with information, closing ranks, meeting regularly to discuss and deliberate, you are going to solve them without firing
So
shots.
the thing is, how do you now gain the confidence of the communities, the citizens, in a way that they can, see themselves as stakeholders in the project of securing themselves and the rest of society? How can police gain their confidence?
Yeah, you maintain that symbiotic relationship. And it's got to talk about professionalism. It's got to talk about discipline. And that's why I was encouraged when that guy was searching somebody's phone and the IG took a very punitive action, because you've got to make somebody your friend. Let me give you an example. If you're on patrol along Ademola Adetukumba, you're in your vehicle or you're on foot, and you come to one shop, for example, H-Medics, and you ask the security, how are you doing? I hope everything is fine. And you go. And you do that on a regular basis. You are forming relationship.
Right.
So if they observe something, they are going to tell you. And once they tell you, and your response capability, that means that when you locate the enemy, you are able to deal decisively with it. And such will be made possible once that regular contact. Like, for example, you have just 200 naira. In the night you're on patrol, you see a security man. You say, boss, how are they? And you take 200, say, buy recharge. If you see something, this is my number, you can call me. And also in the forest, those who are living there, you have people, the timber dealers, they're always there. You have the farmers. But then, so you've got to be proactive in forming that relationship with them. You've got to ask, what does not get measured does not get done. And so you've got to, when you go back to the office, you have a task that has been given to you. That when you went out on patrol, how many people did you contact? What did you hear? So there must be regular, effective supervision.
Right. But this seems like a good argument for the call, you know, for community policing,
and like I was
and state policing. But unfortunately,
and like I was trying to say, so
in
even this Amotekun
right.
and all these things, if you key into the special constabulary arrangement, you have your guys wear police uniform, but under police supervision professionally, and that's going to you are going to achieve much more results than.
We'll be watching this and evaluating it, hopefully. I mean, you've stressed professionalism. I think that's one of the biggest fears of the people, how this will not be abused.
Exactly.
And how the police,
especially with the specter of NSAS hanging over the Nigerian police.
You're taking very stern action against officers.
Thank you so much. AIG, Assistant Inspector General of Police, Wilson Inalegwu. Thank you so much for being on the news tonight.